Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to 221B Baker Street, by way of the Southgate Bridge. I am Sherlock Holmes. This is my colleague, Dr. Watson. Actually, I am your host, Zachary Hare, and while she is not Watson, she is the Watson to my host, my co-host, Kristen Deere.
Hi!
Alright, we are here talking about the mid-season return episode, which, while we liked parts of it, we were both a bit unimpressed.
Yeah. I mean, the case, it just wasn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yes, it was a bit.
Yeah.
But I do agree. Although it was nice, of course, seeing Alfredo right at the beginning.
That was awesome. I was excited. I'm thinking it was going to be a really good episode. I mean, and he. By the way, he was in another of one of my favorite shows.
Copper?
Yes, Copper.
I'm meaning to check. You know, I didn't even realize till I looked up his IMDb. You know, did you see Django Unchained?
No.
He was in that.
Oh.
It was a bit part, but he was a beat up slave, so I didn't recognize him because he had all prosthetics or makeup on his face. But yeah, it was him.
Oh well, I loved him in Copper, and I was really disappointed when that was canceled after only 2 seasons.
I know. I was halfway through the first season and he canceled. Oh, great.
Yeah. I was watching it, all the way through it while it was on, and so it ended, and then they didn't tell us. Everyone assumed it was renewed, and so I assumed it was renewed, and then I hate when that happens.
Yes, but it's good to see Alfredo here. So they are apparently they're still trying to cook this car alarm that even Alfredo can't hack, and it seems to be in Sherlock too. And for some reason it's called Odin.
And I love that that Alfredo stashed a few around the place.
That was funny. That's like something Holmes would do with someone, But right, and apparently we also find out Holmes has been missing meetings. Just hasn't been going that much.
At least he has Odin to keep him company now.
That's right. And pretty soon after that, we get someone at the door who it turns out to be a friend of Watson. It's weird, even though she hasn't kept in touch, she knows that Watson is a detective now.
But it's so easy for Sherlock to steal Jones' clients when they just come to him.
So far, I don't think I've ever seen in this season a reason for him taking over the case that I didn't believe. Right. Yeah, it's not just like he just swoops in and takes it. And of course, we get Kitty. Kitty was kind of very secondary in this episode.
She didn't show up much at all.
I'm hoping that they. I mean, because I don't think the writers would, but I'm just the payoff for this character, which we'll find out probably get a really good hint by the end of the season. I just hope it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate for them to put all this work, and it's just like, okay, I learned from you. I'm gonna leave or get killed now.
I know, because I hate when they do that kind of thing, because when they use her, she's very, very good. But I mean, it's so she's new, so it would be just as easy for them to throw her away, even though that would be really annoying.
Yes. So she's the friend of Watson is saying a friend of hers has gone missing, and Holmes says we're looking at the case, and we get a little comedy here when Holmes says you're in good hands. He opens the door and Owen.
I love that. basically Odin announces Sherlock's strangeness right after he assures her the case is in better hands than with the cops. And it's also funny how he prefers yelling over Odin before closing the cupboard. You know?
Yeah, that was
It's
so
like
funny.
he loves his own eccentricities. He needs them so he won't lapse.
Yes, and so of course he takes the case, and I like how even though Watson's a little, they're getting. I mean, Watson's a little shaky during the season, but she wasn't being snarky. She was just like, "Oh well, took the case.
Yeah,
Whatever. I'm still
I
on
noticed
it."
that. She seemed slightly annoyed, but you could see her ears perk up when Kitty mentions that he's trying to get out of meetings. You totally see her eyes look up. You know, she looks like her ears are perking up.
And they're starting. Apparently, the friend got some mysterious payment saying like, and we see the return of Sherlock's weird text, the abbreviation text.
Oh yeah.
And I think it said "wear sensible
Yeah,
shoes."
wear sensible shoes.
And one thing I found funny about this scene was the dumpster. Never once, not 1 second, asked either of them to get in there.
Well, but Kitty assumed that he was going to ask her, you know, but
Right.
he never even acknowledged that she said that, which I thought was, I don't know, it was an unusual scene.
Maybe it's a subtle nod to the fact that because giving her menial task because she was beginning, but maybe this is a hint to her progression.
Or, you know, it just smelled so bad. He didn't want to put her into that.
Or because he knew he deduced there was a body in there,
Yeah.
so wanted her to have to
Right.
do that. But I think it could be a subtle nod to her progress. But obviously they find he uses, now we had a little deduction here because that was the last place their credit card was used, and he looked that neighbors were complaining about a really rancid smell leads into the dead body of the
Right.
Watson's friend.
And also, just going back a tiny bit, I love how Kitty seemed so impressed by Watson's Sherlock text deciphering skills. The way she looks up at her like she's the most perfect mommy in the world. It's like magic.
There's a couple things like that in this episode. And the episode's got a cool name too. Did you catch the episode title?
Yeah, the Eternity Injection.
That sounds like something from a sci-fi graphic novel or something. Or even Star Trek. Episode 17, The Eternity Injection.
I was actually thinking that, you know, it starts to sound a little sci-fi, but it's all about something that's fake, really. I mean, you inject yourself with something that makes you think that time has gone by.
It actually made me think of something from. You probably didn't see it. Did you see the newest Judge Dredd movie?
No, wait. Oh, I did.
Doesn't this remind you of Slow Mo? The drug from that?
Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's what I was thinking, and I couldn't remember what I was like, there was a movie I just saw, and that was it. I totally didn't make that connection until you just said it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that movie a few times because it was really good. And I hope they do a sequel. It's actually funny because before the podcast we were talking about Almost Human that starred Carl Urban. Actually, it's funny because, and Sherlock mentions this later, this actually has a connection to a. Did you ever watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine? You probably don't remember because this is just one episode, but there was an episode where one of the characters, O'Brien, gets kidnapped. Well, not kidnapped. He does something or commits a crime. I forget if he's wrongly accused, but the point is, the main part of the episode is he gets put in prison. Now he gets sent to jail. He thinks he's in there like 50 years or something. It turns out he was only in there a day. Because I think it was drugs and technology that's how they do their prison system.
Yes, you know what? I don't know if it was Deep Space Nine, but I saw something like that. That there have been a few episodes of sci-fi shows. I mean, they all have some kind of version of this, you know?
Well, a lot of fantasy and sci-fi have had the whole going to a room and time moves differently in that room. Even Dragon Ball Z had something called the hyperbolic time travel. You could get like months of training in the span of a few days. It's a very old concept in sci-fi, but now I don't know if these drugs are real. I mean, I've tried to look, and of course there are theories. I don't know how. I mean, if you really could, like your brain could, because it's theoretically possible that you could speed up your brain to like learn a language. I don't know if things would appear. I don't know exactly how
Well,
that
I'm
would
sure
work.
there is something like that because some people just passing out seems like that. They feel like I had an aunt who passed out once, and she said it felt like she had a dream that was like I don't know, like it felt like she was out for like a week or something, but she was only out for like a minute. And she woke up and she was like, "Oh my God!" She thought a week had passed.
Actually, I felt the opposite once. One time it was when I took a trip overseas, and it was the night before we were leaving, and we were all too wired to go to sleep, so we all stayed up. And we were leaving at like 4 a.m., so I think I went to sleep, like, I don't even remember, and I literally felt like when I went to sleep, I felt like the second my head hit the pillow, someone starts shaking my shoulder saying, Dak, wake up. And I'm like, dude, I just put my head down. He's like, no, it's time to go. I mean, what do you mean it's time to go? I had been asleep. It literally felt like the second my head hit the pillow, someone touched
You
my
know,
shoulder.
I've had that happen. That happened to me once, but it wasn't that drastic though. It wasn't as bad as you said it was. But I mean, weird things happen when when you're asleep, and so I I'm sure that at some point someone will come up with something like that. I don't know that you could ever make it work the way people would want it to work though, because if you're basically, you know, kind of working stuff out in your mind, I would think that I would think it would wear you out. It would wear you out as much as living.
Well, as we see, it
Yeah.
does wear you out from this episode. Um, they go to the medical examiner who tells them that she died very badly, but she's got DNA, and it turns out the DNA matches a missing person. So they start looking into both cases, and we see the return of Mason.
Yes, the child bringing a
Oh, that was
child to
funny.
work day.
The hacker regular. I like how like how Greg's like, did you bring a child into?
The way he said it, was so
Yeah.
perfect. And also, passing a note in class.
Oh yeah, that too. Like he couldn't have just get himself and go, "Hey, got him." And then, know what's funny? When we see that the guy has become more disheveled, I actually thought we were gonna get a version of the man with the twisted lip,
Yeah.
because that's the same thing. A man who's like a good person who goes goes missing, and well, we'll see if they aren't. But anyways, Mason use his face, and like they said, it's only been a couple days, but a guy looks homeless, disheveled, like not at all like he should.
Right.
And I like the wife has complete faith in him that he didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, also back to Mason. I love how he's like,
Yeah,
I don't mean to be rude, but your computers suck.
yeah. But no, I like how usually they just make him a jerk, but he actually sounded concerned when he said, "This is the guy you showed me. This is the guy I found."
Yeah, he did. He did seem like
Which is,
overly concerned, actually. But it was,
yeah.
and but yeah, it was. I thought it seemed kind of realistic, though. He did seem, like a real person.
And so it leads him to the park, and I wish I knew what instrument that was in front of that. I mean, it looks familiar, but I can't quite place it. Because those things sound cool when they play
Yes.
them too. If any of our listeners out there know the name of that instrument, please feel free to email the podcast. And if you want to email the podcast, it's bakerstreetpodcast@gmail.com. Baker Street Podcast on Facebook, and of course Baker Street Pod on Twitter.
That's our
Okay, so
mid-show promotion right there.
that's right. That's right. Well, we did get one email so far, so who knows? It's just nice to know we're not talking to ourselves
Yes.
here.
Well, we know we're not. Because we have views.
Our views are really good. Thank you, everyone, like who's been listening. Oh, and don't forget to review us too, because reviews help us get promoted and lets us know what needs to work on the show and what you like. And so remember, just review us on iTunes or whatever you listen on. Thank you. So they go after the park. And I just love. Oh, look, that's where the homeless people stay. I'm just gonna walk right in there.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to get him to talk about ducking meetings and whatever, and he's just, of course, oh, I like his response to, how are you? And he's like, oh, my heart rate is my
Yes.
cholesterol.
I like I think it's yeah that's funny, but then I love that he now wants to improve this very old system and make it better for himself. And but Joan just wants him to kind of go along with the crowd, you know, and just get better the way that it's like established you should get better, you know.
Indeed. So they find the man, and he's been killed. And by the way, that's not a very good cover-up. Hey, we're gonna kill him and leave him exactly where everyone knows he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave him where he's been seen. Yeah, good kill. Good job. Good job. And so they find his journal, and it's a bit nutty.
Yeah. It's crazy brain.
I mean, it's rabbit hole territory.
I like how they showed all the pages on the wall of evidence.
And knowing the writers as I do from this show, I bet every page was written out to do with, was connected to the show. You know what I mean? Not one page was just random stuff. No, it was all that would be like someone who was going through what he went through. And here we get a little kitty cameo. Okay, that's what we might as well call it this episode.
She well, the few times she shows up, she's well, mainly the part where she looks up at Watson, all impressed at when she decodes Sherlock's message. That's like, I think, her biggest part in the whole episode.
Yes. So they find out from the autopsy that the man, Jacoby, his brain is basically mush. And that's why he probably went nuts on the nurse. And they look at her autopsy, her brain's fine. So they deduce through the paper and through everything, and all through the payments, he's deduced, and this is one of his few deductions of the episode.
There aren't many of those this time around.
Yeah, that someone told me that technically that if you're using literal definitions, Sherlock Holmes doesn't use deductive reasoning, he uses inductive reasoning. If you want to be anal and a grammar Nazi about it.
But we're not we're not either of those.
Oh, I once had a person chastise me for using the letter U in text instead of YOU. It's like they literally said I'm not gonna keep talking to you if you keep using that.
Come on, Paul.
I know. I remember when I first started using the internet, people would say stuff like LOL, MLMAFI. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm guessing I wouldn't really understand any of Sherlock's text. But okay, so they through all the information and a nice little deduction here, he realizes this must have been an illegal drug testing.
Yeah.
And because what's the slip of paper, and that the attack must have happened at the testing, and he escaped.
And the crazy guy, he basically, describes killing the nurse, and and he knows she's the nurse, and they both got the money, and so the nurse helped administer, and then so he connects all that.
What's interesting is that they even say that because of the reasoning of why he killed her, it's very possible he would have been exonerated of the crime if he had survived. Right. And Sherlock also goes on to say a trial like that, a drug trial like that, wouldn't have only 1%, because obviously scientifically the results would mean nothing.
And Watson showed evidence of that, the note with 5 dosages.
Right. So they search for the other. He starts looking into it, like other missing persons. Oh, we should talk about another return. We get our favorite medical examiner. No chest this time, though. But so I do like this, even though, because obviously I love Sherlock's deductions. I love the little that's one of my favorite part about shows like this, watching them piece together information line by line.
Yeah.
Like making the connections. But like we said, we don't see that much.
Right. I mean, that's kind of that's the bulk of it right there. And then, although I like how you've got more irregulars, although we don't see them.
Oh, you mean everyone?
And I love the line he says, "Humiliation is the favored currency of the hacker." when he has to write a treatise on Twilight and read it out loud.
Yeah. Funny thing is, when I saw the word Bella on the chart, I thought it was going to be some kind of reference to the previous
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too, Bella, because you see it on the board first, and when Watson's looking at it, and she sees Bella, and then it's like, wait, and then we're kind of confused with Watson. We're like, Bella? Oh, this is something completely different.
I like how Sherlock. No, I think this must be on purpose because this is multiple times they mention this kind of thing. He says why they couldn't have just become the word is triad or V, depending on how. Yeah, and it's like that's once again Sherlock talking about unconventional love.
But it's just more humiliation because he's got to read it out loud. He can't, threesomes aren't allowed. That would make it a little too cool, which would defeat the purpose of the humiliation.
And, well, she should have ended up with Jacob because, as we all know, werewolves are cooler. So, anyways, yeah. I like how Watson goes. Did they want me to say or do anything?
Oh yeah, she's so happy to not be a part of it.
Oh, but I like the I think it was a very clever way that the company name was Purgatorium.
Yeah, but it's like the worst name ever.
Well, it's actually
right.
when you think about it, it was an intentional hint to what the drug does.
It does.
It keeps you in limbo. And I don't know why she's not doing anything. But Kitty just sitting there reading the book looks funny because she's sitting there going, "I'm holding Twilight." Yeah. What the heck? This is my work.
Have you ever seen Twilight or read?
I'll probably. I mean, I keep telling myself I'm gonna read the books just to see how bad it really is. But I've seen some of the movies, except for the last one. Me and a friend of mine decided, what the heck, we're gonna watch some movies to see how bad. And we actually were surprised. It's not as bad as everyone said it is. Parts of it is as bad as everyone said it is.
I was gonna say, I saw part. I skimmed through one because I heard that what's his name from Revolution.
I never really watched Revolution. Oh yeah, I think
he's also in Motive, or not Motive. I'm sorry, the show that I just what's it called? It's the one after the Closer.
I don't have cable, so I have no idea. The Closer isn't
I know,
on anymore.
but there was a different show that has like the same people. Major Crimes. Thank you. He's on Major Crimes also.
Oh, I never, because I never was into the Closer, so I never checked.
He's not a regular. He's just he's a villain.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, I just can't remember his name though. I'm naming all the things he was in. But he was in Twilight as like a dad or something, and I.
Okay, this is not the Twilight podcast.
Right. Well, I kind of fast forwarded through it. I couldn't handle it. Oh man, I didn't like it.
It's of course it's not a good movie, but it's not as bad as everyone says. But no matter what you say, you'll never convince me that Bella is not a horrible, horrible person. And the worst, she's such a female stereotype. I'm surprised every woman didn't find that so insane.
I don't like any of the characters.
I don't have a man. I'm gonna throw myself off a cliff. Oh, that's inspiring.
I don't like any of them, and I don't think any of them are like hot or anything. I think they're creepy and weird.
Oh, come on. You don't think Shark Boy is hot?
Creepy and weird. That's what all those people are. That guy
no, he was Shark Boy.
From, Major Crimes and such. Even he's creepy in there.
Okay, this is not the Twilight podcast.
Sorry.
Moving on! Jeez. That was Kristen pulling a Rob Southgate.
Okay, sorry.
Alright. So anyways, I almost lost my place. What the heck? Okay,
Sherlock starts pondering eternity.
Right. He realizes we get to hear some lovely classical music.
Lovely.
And he finds out other missing persons who had similar symptoms and even described losing time the same way, which can't be a coincidence. So a little tiny deduction there is that it must have something to do with time dilation drugs, which is a new concept. And it's an amazing thing. I like how you can tell that he's intrigued by it. Like, he would love if that thing was possible.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound pretty cool. I just, Yeah, I think you'd probably it'd be like other drugs where it has lots of unintended consequences, lots of side effects, especially something like that.
We find out that one of the victims is still alive, most likely, and so they go looking for him. And I like this scene where she's like the bartender, who's his friend, is cleaning. He's like, yeah, he was talking a little crazy. He thought people were coming after him. That Watson Holmes and Kidding goes,
Yeah.
oh, is that real?
Like, what? I thought he was just nuts.
It actually reminds me of a story about Conan Doyle. No one's sure if it's real or not, but apparently, it's just a story that one time as a joke, he sent a letter to some of his friends. It said something off the lines of "They're coming for me" or "They found me" or something like that. And three of his friends were like, "Oh, that was funny," and one of his friends went into hiding. Now, I don't know if it's true, but it'd be funny if it was.
Yes, it would.
And I just love how Kitty's just there sipping tea, like talking to the, like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
Now, through there we look somewhere. I mean, now, I don't know, but you would apparently this guy doesn't have much of a reaction time because they bang on his door, pick his lock, and then he still doesn't get out the window until they get through the door. How very
Yeah, and
courteous of
Kitty
him.
went through like several. Someone said on Twitter it was like backseat lockpicking.
That was me. That was me. I tweeted that
Oh,
backseat
that's
lock. I have that in my notes.
oh my-
Someone, yeah, someone you might know.
that was a good one.
Yeah, and oh, that's what it felt like, Sherlock Holmes is like, oh, and well, that one, and Watson goes, oh, that one's, and she's like, would you look,
Yeah,
please?
but it was all. I mean, it's also like the parent comparison. The criticizing
You know what?
parents.
Yeah, one thing I found sort of interesting was the guy's. I mean, obviously he was like that because of brain damage, because his hand. Because I know people with cerebral palsy, and that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, I did. Something they said earlier too. I was trying to think what would have caused it because they said that it seemed like these people had fixated on the possible effects they were told about and created a delusion around that. And so I was trying to think, how does his hand, how is that part of the delusion? you know?
Oh no, it's brain
Yeah.
damage.
So I,
Because cerebral palsy, um, that's what it like. Because that's how it does. Like your cerebral palsy, your intellect is what your brain can. Like there are people who just can't. Like there are people and it's actually interesting because there are different. Just like this had different levels of symptoms, there is different levels of cerebral palsy. Like there are some people who just can't control. There are others who can't function without help. Like literally, they touch anything because they can't. Or their brains can or their hands. And the way he was holding his hand looked just like
yeah,
it to
but
me.
they the different reactions, the different levels of reactions were because of different dosage amounts.
Well, I know. I'm saying it affected their brain chemistry differently. Even Watson says he's got brain damage.
I
Look at his
know, but
hand.
the earlier they said, oh, they're having like basically identical reactions just in different amounts, and nobody else had that reaction with their body parts. It just went nuts.
Well, I think it's. Well, we don't know exactly. They didn't if anything happened for them, but it could just be because, like they said, he probably got the smallest dosage, so it
Yeah,
affected him the
and then
least.
he just I don't know. I still don't get it about the hand, but whatever. I'll let it go.
All right. So, and one thing I like this reminded me think of I forget the name of the episode, but it was the one with their math irregular because this guy it's like yeah they all got hired by illegal drug trial online. Who knew that could
Yeah,
go wrong?
it's another one of those.
Although any one of us, if someone's deposited $150,000 on our bank account, even one of us might go, "Hey."
No, not
I
me.
don't know,
Maybe you.
well, no, I'm not saying I do it, but I'm saying if $150,000 appeared in my bank, I'd be like, so let's hear you out.
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't give them my bank information. I would not
That's
trust
true. I didn't.
any of this enough to go anywhere
That's true.
or
I didn't
give
think.
my information or anything. Or
That's true.
even
I didn't
email
think
them
of that.
so
It's
they
not
have
like
my
it's not.
email
They didn't.
address.
I didn't think of that. They didn't just give him a check. They literally wired. That means he had to have given them all his
Yeah,
banking
that's
info.
nuts. So stupid. How stupid do you have to be
I
to
like how he
fall for
admits
something
it.
like that?
He's just like, yeah, I know, stupid, but the check's weird.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, well now you're Captain Hook for the rest of your freaking life, man. Good. And so they talk to him, and they realize that they tell him he talks about the nurse, and he's some description of the doctor that was obviously in charge. And we also see that Sherlock is getting some texts from Alfredo, and he's ignoring them. I just realized something. Sherlock is sponsoring someone, so he's skipping meetings. It's the person he's sponsoring is not. Also, we haven't seen the guy he sponsored
Yeah,
since.
that's another thing. I mean, we hadn't seen Alfredo for a while, but I mean, we haven't seen the guy he's sponsoring for a long time. But I mean, I wonder if that's. I was starting to wonder if maybe they just are skipping over that. Like, oh, that never happened.
Just like it. And so Sherlock is looking into the. Okay, I like how I understand police sketches are not an exact science, but I like how he's like, I believe I found the man, and the picture looks nothing like the drawing.
I thought it kind of looked like him, actually.
It looked a little, but the head was huge.
Yeah. But the facial features, I thought they were similar.
Somewhat.
Yeah, a little off, but
And
you can tell.
Yeah. So we see here that he sent Kitty to see if he could find the offices where the trials, but so you're not working, you can go to a meeting, and he's resist. And we find out, she gets out of him that he's sick of the repetitiveness of recovery.
Yeah, I like how he won't talk to her, and then she turns to leave, and then it's like right at the last minute, it's like holding back. Okay, fine, I'll tell you what's wrong. And it was so honest, and I loved it.
I love this thing where he compares it to a faucet dripping, and I swear I've heard that somewhere. That's what the show. I mean, addicts. Like they've talked. This is one of the episodes where they talk to real addict, get info on the show, because I've heard talk like this about their sobriety.
Yeah.
That's like it's the same thing. It's like he literally said, and what I found really interesting was he even said, even I hate my sobriety, I'm not gonna do drugs because that would just bring it. I would have to go right back to the beginning.
I like how he talks about how he used to think it would be a great climax, but now he thinks it's an anticlimax.
And it's funny because it's the punishment for being an addict. You get a few moments of pleasure, and your life is affected. The rest of your life is just damaged.
So I was very happy when he said that, though. It's like, oh, good, okay, don't make us worry until next episode.
Well, we've always worried if he was going to, and they even, of course, did the relapse fake out season 1.
Yeah, but
and fans are saying every time, is he going to relapse?
But he kind of assures us a little bit at this point that he's not going to relapse, because that would kind of ruin the whole. It would be worse than it is now,
Which I find
fascinating. But all the words he uses, feeling down, tedious, relentless. Is this it? It's just a grind, constant maintenance, nothing rewarding in return, all these really negative things. And then he's like, oh, but, it'd be worse to actually go back to drugs, to relapse.
I'm really curious to see where this is going, because it's going somewhere.
Yeah, I'm curious also, because he's got to do something to avoid the relapse, and I think it has to do something with Watson, because then we see that the thing that makes him happy. But I thought it was really weird that he said no later when she offered to come back.
Well, he didn't technically say no. We'll get that when we get, but we get one of our the elementary special,
yes.
A Rude Awakening.
Everything is better because Joan stayed. He has excitement in his life now because he can learn some music on the bugle just to have something fun to do, to wake her up in the morning.
Yeah, well, I like how he openly admits I've missed
Yes, I
rousing
mean, it
you.
sounded that that whole part there, it was like an enormous hint that he'd like her to move back, and and that he really really wants her to suffer through his eccentricities for the sake of his sobriety.
And I like, she's like, okay, did you wake up Kitty too? And he says, no, I'm a
Yeah,
courteous housemate.
like he always was with her, right?
Yeah, I know, right? I'm surprised she didn't call him
No, but
on
I
that.
mean, it was like a joke though, because I mean, I think it was too obvious. If she had called him on it, it was it was like a joke.
Right. And he does make her a nice
Yeah.
breakfast. I like it. It's funny how, because he says one of the benefits of the drug would be learning a new skill in a short period of time. He said he taught himself the reveille in an hour. But so they have searched the dark place. They find the vials, and Holmes finds out that the guy, his aunt, has a bad hit. She works in an old folks' home, and like Michael Bell's like, why would he visit? And Holmes says, "Guy did not intentionally kill anyone."
Yeah, I mean, he's basically
So,
propping him up a little bit, saying he was trying to do something good, and I think because he loves the idea of the drug so much.
that's where I know him. Because it's driving me nuts that he looked familiar. He was in The Waterboy. He played Bobby's friend on the
Oh,
football
okay.
team. He looks so familiar. Well, he's been in a bunch of stuff that I have probably seen him in, but that's the one that I really recognize him from. This has been an IMDb moment with that gray hair. So they get him, and again, this episode. A lot of parts remind me of this episode. Actually, this reminds me of Bella's episode, because he said he's willing to go to jail to protect his
Also,
work.
right before that, when Bell first takes him in, I like how it's like he's announcing Sherlock's right. He's like, "You're a good nephew. You're also under arrest."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they bring him questioning, and they realize Sherlock realized the way he's talking, he can't be protecting one of the corporations. He's protecting
Yeah, I mean, he
work.
really like throwing himself under the bus. Not, I think it seemed like it wasn't just for a person either, for the research too.
Right. And I'm guessing it's also for his aunt, like, because whoever's doing it's probably, like they said, paying
Right.
for
Yeah,
her care.
but he also really stressed the research as well. It seemed like he cared about it, but it might just be his aunt.
Well, he gives a hint without like giving a hint, because he says we had to get this done
Yeah,
quickly. Because they said, why didn't you just go through the proper channels? Because it's a drug. He fully
right.
could have. And so there was a time limit, so they got to figure out why. So it leads. Although I think I don't know how. Obviously, it was probably everyone that let him, but it seemed like there was no connection to that to the man. Yeah, that weird name too. It's like, I want to say it right. James
Connaughton or
Connaughton.
something. Connaughton, Jack Connaughton, or whatever.
So the old guy. But it seems like there wasn't much of a connection there. You know what I mean? Like they just, okay, we found
Yeah,
him.
it was odd.
I mean, did they say that? They said they found his shell corporation. I don't think they said that. Like, they said to each other, like, "Oh, everyone found this for us."
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that came up. I need to actually I need to go back and look at that. I by this time of the episode I was kind of bored. I was liking
I know.
the case so much. I really liked, Sherlock's part in
Oh,
it, but I
we've skipped over.
oh,
We
just
skipped
Katie
over
Foote.
Holmes beating. Yeah, that and he figures out somehow that using, although that's kind of a given, like using an EMP from a phone. And I know I don't really understand how EMPs work, but I'm pretty sure I don't know if you can calibrate them like that.
Well, there might be like an add-on you could get. I don't think you could create one just from a phone. Maybe some phones. I don't know. I don't think you could do it from like an iPhone.
Well, I think he said, I think he said it was a phone camera or something. a disposal. I don't know because I don't know if I bought that because I'm pretty sure that's not how EMPs work. It doesn't matter if the thing's shut off. EMP fries circuits. Doesn't matter if they're on or off.
Well, also it depends on if it's plugged in as well. Well, like
Well,
the
yeah,
car,
but
it's
then
a
if the
battery,
car,
so it's it has things that are on all the time.
if any of our listeners are electrical engineers, please email the show. We would like to. Oh, and speaking of which, I love how he says to Alfredo, it's like this swagger. Well, you're not an electrical engineer. Alfredo looks at him and goes, "Neither are
Yeah.
you."
But there are parts of the car that are on all the time too. So
Right. Well, even if not on this, the circuits don't just shield it.
right. I mean, it's not like you have a what's that called? I forgot the word. I forget words all the time. What is the shield called? The shield against EMPs. What is that called?
I didn't know there was a word for it.
There's you can put it in. Oh, I'll have to look it up. I'll get back to you.
Okay. So somehow they find. I mean, they just say they. No, because they said they're going to find out that he started Purgatorium, right? They say that here. So how did they never. I don't think they actually said how they found him.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, I think we both checked out by this point in the show. Oh, it's interesting to have this actor, and it's Doc and Matthews, who I'm sure everyone over because he's been in he's one of those actors like, oh, it's the guy from, because he's been in a lot of stuff. This guy.
Yeah, he's probably in. I should bring up another IMDb moment, perhaps.
Well, I could do an IMDb moment. He's done so much stuff. Like
no,
seriously, he's one of those
he does
character
a lot
actors.
of these one-off characters as well.
Yeah. So, but okay, that's how they said they found. That's it. They said they found him through the doctor because apparently his charity sponsored and helped him and stuff like that. That's how they found him through because he has given the doctor. But
that's
then, like
right.
he said,
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, and a phone call. That's what it is. They traced his phone records. That too. All right, so that does make sense then.
Okay.
But yeah. So they're saying like, but were they really expecting he was gonna go? All right, you got me. They went in there with no proof really, and it's almost like the old detective show thing. Oh, I'm just gonna say it. And you're just gonna admit it. In fact, I'm gonna post a comedy routine that makes fun of that. It's from Mitchell and Webb. Believe me, it makes fun of the whole people just admitting stuff after detective. It's like you have no proof. All right, I did it. Well, now I do. But yeah, but I think we can probably wrap. We don't even have to analyze. There's not much
he's an
analyzing
old
the rest of
dying
these scenes,
dude.
really. Right? He's old. Yeah, he's old and
He
dying.
wants
It's
to
the old.
live
It's very
longer
cliche.
with some.
Well, not technically live longer. He wants his mind to process the thing, and obviously he doesn't care about the people that died. And so
Oh, and then Joan
they talked
offers
to
to
him,
come
obviously.
back, but Alexis.
Yeah.
Let's skip to that.
Yeah, well, we'll just go through the wrap up the case real quick, then we'll get to that. Because, one thing I forgot to mention, and I thought this was worth noting, is Kitty giving Watson a key.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention that too.
Yeah, she gives him, so she doesn't have to keep getting into her apartment. And I'm like, that is a really big step for Kitty, in my opinion.
But then Joan says the real reason it's because he doesn't feel like answering the door.
Well, still, it's still something to help that Kitty did to help Watson. So they decide, wait a minute, let's talk to him. So they talk to the nurse, and
maybe it was
they
because she was so impressed that she knew how to crack Sherlock's code.
Yes, that was it. So they talk to the nurse who says, "Oh, I have a non-disclosure agreement." No, that doesn't mean anything when it's an illegal court case like this. And it turns out the guy obviously hired some men to kill the remaining test subjects, and they go back to arrest him, and he's taking the drug. So just like the episode with the Bella, this one has an ending which the bad guy essentially gets away with it, which I felt I was very unsatisfied by that. It's like, oh, he's like, oh well. Okay.
I really didn't like that ending at all.
No.
Faraday cage. I'm sorry.
Oh, that
Faraday
thing.
cage. What was I saying about it? Oh, it's not like car parts or anything.
Wait a minute.
That's
Did you
what
just
I'm trying to
remember did you seriously just remember the word you were trying to think of, but forgot why you were trying to think it up?
when I was getting bored with the story, I heard it.
You're, you're like Holmes, like the months of tedium woke up, you allowed your mind to focus on other things. But no, I think the thing I hate is we don't like. I think it would have been better if maybe he took the drug and it just fried him. You know what I mean? That would have been an ending for a bad guy. But no, we don't know we don't know if he's gonna come out of it. We don't. I was
I
very
wanted to
unsatisfied by that. Very
see
much so.
what happened after he woke up in jail and like being all miserable. I wanted to see him be miserable because he's a miserable old fart.
Right. I don't know. I was just this case was, but then Watts. Well, again, we get to Watson talk, and see Watson says I'll move back in, and he says something like it'll be like he doesn't say no. He's like saying no. Well, if you want to, you can. You know, that was so passive aggressive.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like he wants to stay in control, and
Yeah.
not just give it to her and say, oh, goody, finally, what I've been wanting this whole time. He was probably feeling that inside. I don't know. But I wish he had just said, okay, and get it over with and get her back in the house so we can have more of the fun between them.
Yes. Well, I wonder if we're gonna get Kitty's reaction to it. Like, because obviously they get along now, but getting along is a little different than her moving in.
Yeah, but I mean, Kitty's seeming to really like Watson now, so I think it, they could do a lot with that either way, really. But I think it would be better if Watson was there, and then Sherlock can, do his annoying his annoying wake ups and all that, and
Okay, that's what he said. I think she says, okay. Now, I thought when I first watched it, he's saying you coming over is a temporary solution, but I think what he's actually saying is what I'm feeling is a temporary thing. He calls it a temporary malaise. He was talking about what he's feeling, so she doesn't need to, again, he doesn't say no to her at all. He doesn't say no, don't
right.
come. So, well, I'm curious to see. Well, I'm sure with the way the internet is, as soon as the season started, there was already, Kitty Watson / fiction, so that's one direction the show could go.
But I do also like seeing Kitty and Watson working together, because and I'd like to see more of all three of them working together. It's pretty good. You know what I just thought of?
What?
The whole Twilight thing that he brought up.
Oh my god.
As soon as I the three of them working together. Oh no. Why'd I say that?
Well, do you think Kitty will ever, do you think they do that? Kitty and Holmes?
No! No! That would be oh, my cat is here. Did you hear my cat meow?
Your cat was, no, we kept saying Kitty, so the cat probably thought.
That's so funny. The cat comes in and starts meowing when we're talking about Kitty.
So, I don't know if that would work, but it just makes me curious, because I mean, do you think the show could work if Kitty becomes a main character by like a real, like she's staying on the show by season 3? I mean 4.
There's so many ways they could go with this. I think that it could work. It just depends on how they work it out, what they do with her.
I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah.
By the end of the season,
there are all kinds of creative things you can do with different characters. I mean, you could go anywhere.
We'll just have to see where they go with it. And now, although I'm guessing this one's going to be a little different this week because there wasn't much clues, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show where you don't hear my voice for at least a few minutes. Kristen's Clue Cap.
Okay, so the crime this week was, it started out as a missing person, and then it turned into a murder of Marissa Ledbetter, a nurse friend of Joan's friend. And then that unfolds into more murders and disappearances. And so there weren't many clues, but there were some minor clues. The first clue was that her credit card was used in a bad part of town, basically, and
and she received $150,000 from a company known as Purgatorium, and nothing can be found about them. So the credit card leads to a nearby area where there were foul smells, and then that gives them the body of Marissa, okay? And then she had a listing of 5 dosages for a drug on her. So that's, I guess, the first big clue. And the evidence, and then there's a lot of evidence here, that evidence on the body leads to a man named Christopher Jacoby, and then more evidence leads to his body, where there's a tiny clue, disturbed earth, where Sherlock finds Jacoby's notebook, and the notebook indicates that Jacoby went insane and shows that he did kill the nurse, okay? And then he also got $150,000 from Purgatorium, okay? So the two deposits, or the 2 wire transfers of $150,000 to each of them, helps Sherlock to deduce that this was an illegal drug trial, and that Marissa was the nurse, and Jacoby was the patient, and he killed Marissa based on his delusions because of the drug, okay? And so then once they find the other participants, because there were 5 dosages, so they know there were 5 people. Okay, so once they find the other participants, then Sherlock pulls a clue from their similar delusions, that they all seemed to experience some sort of time dilation. Okay, so from here, it's just a lot of testimony and evidence, and nothing I would really call a clue, other than maybe the fact that Dwyer Kirk, the nurse in charge, cared about his aunt. And so when he threw himself under the bus for his company, Sherlock knew he was protecting someone, so that leads to the private benefactor, which is, the old fart who wants to live forever using time-dilating drugs, and who paid for Kirk's aunt's care. Okay, so not many clues, but a lot of evidence. So that's it for the clue cap.
Well, that was fun. I especially like the one with the dancing monkey with the throwing knife.
Ah, yes, that was. I had fun with that one too.
I didn't see where that was. I didn't see where that clue was going, but it worked. But yeah, this one didn't really have any clues, so I'm guessing you're gonna have a fun time doing your clue cap this time. It's like it's gonna be like a minute long. He found this, he found that,
Yep.
End the show.
I've hit. Sometimes the clue cap goes on a really long time, and sometimes it's like 2 minutes or less. I mean, I think there was one that was like a minute and a half or something.
And now time for my favorite lines. First, I am a courteous housemate.
Ah, yes, that was perfect.
Number 2, sentient furniture.
That was a good one.
Yes. So as my final thoughts, again, the deductions were fairly weak. Now, was it a bad episode? No. Did it have a lot of rewatch value? Not really. I mean, I like the character development. I like some of the scenes, but this is not. I mean, if it's on, I'd watch it, of course. But seek it out. Nah, this is not a rewatch episode. I mean, it's a bit of a weak mid-season return, but not the worst. So I give it a decent rating. What about you?
Yeah, usually there's at least one little section or a couple of sections that have rewatch value. This really didn't have any at all. But I did really like the Holmes, and the way he talks about his addiction, and it's all very it's the characters are just so real, everything they do. I love anything that has to do with character development on the show, and so that was very, very good. And I always Sherlock's character development is always the best. Sometimes I forget how much I like it until they have one that's centered on him, and then I remember, oh man, this is why I love this character so much.
And then we just heard your
Yes.
cat's final thought.
She was like, "Yeah, I agree."
See, she's agreeing. But okay, yeah, and so we'll see how the show. I mean, yeah, so that's all for this week. And tune everyone next time with me and Kristen. But it's time to part, so the game is afoot.